Hello, welcome to the Consortium webinar. Here we go, so I'll go to the agenda.
So many of you will know that I have been kind of leading some of the agenda things in the past. We have a new team member today, and you may recognize her from the previous webinar, but Rebecca, you can go ahead and introduce yourself and explain a bit about what you do.
Great, so my name's Rebecca. I joined the team a little less than a month ago, and I'll be assisting Aditya with data management and as well as data analysis that the team does. And basically my overarching role is to help manage consortium related things. So different member needs, different ways to get the ideas flowing, that kind of stuff. And so with that, moving into the meeting, we'll start with project update and goals. Good news, we have MindLamp 2 is now available for wearable devices, which means you can download it on your Apple Watch or any of your Google wearables. We also have a new management UI available, and it will be available around mid-October. And so our goal with this was to create a more user-friendly UI that kind of went with the new update with our MindLamp 2 app. And I'll let Aditya show you those updates.
Awesome. Let me go ahead and share. Let me pull it up and then share what we've got. Just a moment. Great. So let me get some of this stuff out of the way here. Actually, it looks like I can't. But essentially, we have a lot of new improvements to the existing interface, which we showcased about 2 months ago. You may recognize this is what the patient would see if they log in from the web browser. And not much of that has changed. There are a few minor improvements here and there, but we're really excited to announce we've completely redesigned the user experience for managing patients in a clinic or participants in a study, surveys, and so on. We're really re-envisioning how that is supposed to work. There are a few features that I'm going to go over that currently exist and a few that don't currently exist. So this will look pretty familiar today because it's essentially a list of the patients. You can edit their names. You can see when they last logged in, when did they last do something. And we're also adding customizable data indicators. This means that if, for example, your study relies on a survey, a mood survey that you've scheduled for 8 a.m. every day, as well as GPS location, what you can do is you can create a custom data indicator, and the data indicator is sort of like a traffic light. It's a green, yellow, red. And the green means for, say, GPS, if the GPS is supposed to be collected at, once every minute, did we get a GPS ping correctly? If the last GPS ping has been more than, say, 3 hours ago, and again, this is customizable. I can set my thresholds how I would like. If it's customizable and I choose 3 hours, it would show up red if I didn't get a GPS ping in the last 3 hours. And for the mood survey, if the patient hasn't taken a survey, say at 8 a.m., or maybe they missed it for the entire week, I can change what color that shows up as to get a very quick overview on how I'm doing with my study or with my clinic. Then you can also now, we're adding the ability to filter by multiple studies. So previously in MindLamp 1, if you wanted to manage multiple studies, you had to log in as separate accounts. We've brought all of that under one umbrella, and your account is now able to manage multiple studies at the same time. You can say you can call it not really a study, but a group. You can have a control group as well as, say, in the psychiatry space, maybe you're looking at schizophrenia, and maybe you're looking at depression, and these are 3 different groups that need to get 3 different sets of surveys. You can manage all of that through this dashboard in one place. Just a moment. There we go. And this is what it looks like if you were to edit this information here. It's pretty straightforward. You may recognize, again, you can rename stuff as you are able to today. You can edit their passwords and login information. You can edit their activities individually. And this is a feature we're very excited about. You can schedule something or create a survey unique to a single patient. And this feature is not ready yet today, but it's coming very soon. So maybe you say in a clinic setting, you have a patient that you'd like to create a specific survey about water intake. You can do that now. And obviously, you can import and export and delete. Those settings are kind of buried. There's a more menu that's not in this mockup yet. If you want to create a new patient, you can create a new patient or participant into the existing study, or you can create a new study automatically with it. And now, this is what it looks like if you're managing the activities. So for the list of activities, you can sort of tag each one. Where does it go? No longer is it mandatory that it's in learn, assess, or manage, or prevent. I can choose. Maybe I want my anxiety survey to actually go in the manage section. Maybe I want my NBAC test to go in the learn section. I can change that. And you'll see also here, this column tells you to whom does this survey apply to whom does this intervention or cognitive test apply to. So there's a lot of cleaned up and reorganized information that will help you manage multiple studies or multiple clinics and multiple patients way better. And we're bringing all this new filtering and sorting tools. All these tools are coming to this new interface in both the patient section as well as the activities section. And you can also create activities of different types, create groups just as you have been, and you can also import them. The biggest one that a lot of people have been asking for is a better survey editor. And we're really improving the way that the survey editor works, and it's a lot more user-friendly. Still, conditional logic is coming soon, and this editor will allow you to, once conditional logic is ready, you'll be able to set that up. It's not ready just yet, but the interface is much improved and way more similar to something like Google Forms, which should be more intuitive if you've already worked with Google Forms or SurveyMonkey or RedCap, for example. So you'd be able to edit, create, and modify everything using this new interface. Finally, when you want to look at a patient's view, we've added a helpful indicator. Now the rim of your screen turns blue to remind you what you're looking at is a patient's view. This is the patient you're looking at it for, and so you don't forget or get confused and maybe take a survey on behalf of the patient or something similar. It's just a helpful reminder. And so these interface changes are all coming soon. We're expecting them to be out the door by mid-October, as Rebecca said. And does anyone have any questions on those? I can elaborate.
Great.
Awesome. And then I will let Rebecca continue.
Great. So that was the UI. Next, we have the server migration. So our server is now fully migrated to the new database, which means that it'll be simpler, faster, and more importantly, more secure deployment of LAMP platform for you. And our goal with this was just to streamline the data management and access a straightforward process for all of our users in the consortium. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, does anyone have any questions regarding this? There was a latest news post on the forum as well that provided some more insight on what this migration was about. And I know some folks have emailed and posted on the forum asking for more information and clarification.
Yeah, I guess also on the future work, you mentioned, I think there was a mention of Redis there. So is the goal that it's going to eliminate SQL Server first, then just use CouchDB, then you're going to Redis? Is that the goal?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We are expecting that CouchDB and Redis will both live side by side. We're using CouchDB as a persistent database for the actual data. And we're using Redis kind of as a message broker, a message queue that allows components to talk to each other very quickly and effectively. And it paves the way for really important features such as push notifications and the automations framework, and many more features that are not yet ready just yet. But Redis is something we expect that will be deployed in addition to CouchDB. It will not be replacing CouchDB.
Okay.
SQL, however, is no longer part of our stack. So if you already deployed something based on SQL Server, you can get in touch with us and we can show you the migration process. We can assist you with the migration process. It's fairly easy to do so. And we've created a migrator script that will take care of it for you.
Okay, and the existing MindLamp 2 on the app stores, they work with the new backend, or we have to wait for an update?
Nope, they work out of the box and there's nothing you would have to change.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Great.
Fantastic.
And so another update, less on the technical side, is an update to our consortium guidelines. We made a couple updates to reflect the different updates with the platform. So firstly, we have an update regarding the regulations around push notifications. And I'll touch on that in just a moment. We also have an update on the bug tracking system that we use. So from now on, we're asking users who encounter bugs to submit a survey, also linked in the new consortium guidelines. That will help us track the bug and get to the bottom of it. Is there anything else about the bug tracker before we move to the guidelines?
Oh, I think that was pretty
Okay,
comprehensive.
Great. So I will show those guidelines. Great. So right here we have the consortium partner guidelines. For the most part, they've stayed the same. So support, shared data. What we did include is we listed the shared survey questions. So we did before say that we wanted to have some sort of commonality, but we hadn't specified what they were. That commonality can be found here. And just these 5 simple questions to add to any survey to help us gather data. And then independent server, that stayed the same. The biggest change I would say is the IRB and protocol. This just lists what's going on and why we will need to kind of be the middleman between push notifications that you'd like to send off with our LAMP platform. There's a requirement due to Apple and Google, which Aditya can touch more on and give more color on if anyone is interested.
Yeah, so to add a little bit more information, essentially Apple and Google have worked with us very closely on this unique approval process for the MindLamp app. And because the new MindLamp app works with sensitive HealthKit and Google Fit data on top of getting very accurate and fine sensor measurements, Apple and Google have kind of been very careful about the processes in place. And furthermore, they have been asking us to ensure that the users of the MindLamp apps have an IRB or a clinical protocol in place as regulation. And if they detect that there is some misuse or there are users of this app that do not have the correct research study or clinical approval to do so, the entire app would be removed from the App Store entirely. So it is a duty that it's primarily John, our director, would have to sort of share this information with Apple and Google. And so we need this information from all of the consortium partners. And so the primary reason for this is the gateway that allows us to send a push notification to the mobile apps is regulated by Apple and Google. So if you're a consortium partner and you'd like to use our mobile apps, if you comply with these guidelines, we give you a special digital certificate. And that digital certificate is installed as part of the LAMP server. And that allows the LAMP server to talk to our app gateway, and it's fully encrypted. No data is ever decrypted in this process. Nothing is ever de-identified. And when it talks to our gateway, it then goes to Apple and Google directly. Are there any questions on that process?
So when you say your gateway, is that hosted by Beth Israel?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, none of the data is ever decrypted in this process. It is a fully encrypted stream from your servers to the mobile device. It stays encrypted in transit from our server to Apple and Google as well.
And that's only from the direction of our back end to the app, right?
Correct.
About the app to the back end. Does anything go through your gateway from the mobile app to the back end?
No. From the
Okay.
app to the back end is direct. There's no
Direct.
gateway involved. And again, this gateway is primarily only for the push notifications, and it's a regulation requirement that is kind of, it's something that Apple and Google require from us because we have such a broad partnership with many institutions, and because it's a medical app with access to very sensitive data, and it makes sense from their perspective. We're more than willing to sort of work with you and help you and figure out how we can best make this process work. We understand it's a little bit different than what organizations are used to with deploying MindLamp today. The alternative, again, if you choose not to do this, you would have to download, modify, recompile, and resubmit the apps under your own name and branding from your institution to Apple and Google independently. We've provided all of the instructions on how to do so and how to begin that process, and we'd be more than willing to add feedback along the way to make sure that it's as painless as can be, but it is fairly difficult because of the nature of the application.
Okay, and there's only one cert, whether you're using an Apple or a Google app, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Are there any other questions regarding the updated guidelines?
Yeah, sorry, I'm like monopolizing this. The shared survey questions, 1 to 5. So does it mean that for every survey so these are for surveys we create, we have to add those 5 questions?
Or it's just a survey that's available as in the survey library for each participant. Like it's not appended to existing surveys, right?
That's correct. I think Andrew has the right understanding here. It's not that we modify the existing surveys, but it is an additional survey that you'd be required to include.
Okay, then how do you get the responses for those? Since the backend is controlled by us, how do you actually see those values, those responses?
You would have to manually periodically share it with our team.
Okay, and that's part of the guideline. Yeah, it's part of the guidelines.
Yes, we are not
Okay.
able to ever access your backend to pull that data. So it would be something, a very manual process from your team.
Okay, and how often do you want us to push that?
That is a good question. I don't believe we have an answer to that just yet.
Okay.
Let me get back to you as we find out more, and we would update the consortium guidelines with that information. And I think as we go on, that information will also be made aware in the updates and forum posts.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, let's go back to the deck. So we covered the updated guidelines. And finally, the current issues and feedback. So this is a reminder that MindLamp 1 is being deprecated for new research studies by mid-October. This does not mean that studies currently using it will be shut down. It just means that we will no longer offer it. This is to help us move and migrate everything to MindLamp 2. We did discover a persistent issue with the device motion sensor frequency on iOS. And so right now we are in the process of pinpointing the issue so we can fix it, and we are looking for ways to solve this problem. This is currently in process. Is there anything else about that?
Yeah, to provide a little more information on the issue, we noticed that on iOS devices, if you were collecting device motion data, that is accelerometer, gyroscope, gravity, linear accelerometer, those kinds of sensors, there was a bug in the app that prevented it from collecting data at the frequency desired. We were seeing, in the best case scenario, 1 sensor event per 10 minutes, as opposed to 1 sensor event every 200 milliseconds is the frequency that we configured the system for. And so our developers are aware of this issue, and they have mentioned to us that by mid-October, it will be resolved. Ideally, this should not be affecting Android devices, as well as other studies currently not using sensor collection. If you have any questions, or if you think you'd like some clarification on that, please let me know, and we can I can clarify more.
And then the third point here, which is kind of going off of that, we're really trying to get the LAMP consortium more involved with everything. And so we've had a lot of issues that have already been identified by the community in our forum that have been resolved. And just in the future, we just want to make it very clear, like, this is encouraged. Please keep posting in the forum. It is so helpful. We're trying to foster this environment of idea sharing and growth. And on that point, we are adding a new feature, which is our Lampsite Spotlight. So this will be in every webinar that we have, as well as there will be a site featured in our newsletters. So if you are interested in being a site spotlight, one of our features, please reach out at either over the forum, or you can email us at team@digitalpsych.org with just a little bit of information about your site, how you're using LAMP. So anything from recruitment to resources, maybe how you're finding COVID to affect your studies. And we also welcome photos and videos. But if there are any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them now. Great. Okay. I believe that is it. Yeah, that is it for the deck. Are there any other questions about anything we've covered? Comments?
Yeah, I want to go back to the guidelines. On there, you had a 2-hour support. What does that mean? Can you expand on that?
Right. So moving forward, we're trying to give support in many ways. And as we are a limited team here, we're trying to make sure we're documenting things really well, making resources available for people who are using LAMP. And so in the spirit of that, we're trying to not to limit basically how many times of like face-to-face or how many calls we're having with different sites to give support, because we're getting to the point where we're going to get so like spread out and so thinly spread across the different sites that we're trying to find some sort of a way to quantify exactly how much individual one-on-one time we can give each site. That being said, that 2-hour support does not include the community, it does not include the forum, and it does not include like different videos, different webinars that we're going to be hosting.
And to also add to that, all of the source code it's all open source, all free. It will continue to stay that way. And all of the resources that you have been using will continue to be improved. Our commitment to documentation and freely available access to the information, as well as the platform, is going to continue as long as possible, essentially. And our director, John, can also speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's just a sustainability thing, right? As we have more people using it, it's hard to reach every single person and give them so much attention. I think we have such good documentation, we'll keep making it, that we just want to make sure that people are utilizing that before coming to us. And I think as any project grows, right, let's keep making the documentation bigger and hopefully getting the forum to a point where we're learning a lot of things from the forum too when people post. And I think hopefully getting to a point too where different sites are thinking about helping with IRB language, helping with kind of study design methods. There's a lot more than getting the app up and running. And I think that's where it'll be good to get the whole community is kind of answering these questions, but we think there's enough good documentation kind of there to get it pretty far up and running pretty well. And we kind of base the 2 hours saying like, what would people need beyond what we have? And every time that we interact with someone, we say, what did we miss documenting that people couldn't find online? And we said, is it a goal? And there are things that we're still learning and adapting. We'll keep doing it. But we said, we think we're getting to the point where it should be pretty easy to deploy and run online.
And if you have any suggestions regarding resources that you think would be helpful, or maybe things that you need more clarification on, say in the deployment of LAMP, or, well, how do I configure LAMP to do this? Please feel free to send us an email at team@digitalpsych.org or make a consortium post requesting that resource, and we'll be more than happy to make sure that that's part of our documentation. We're continually evolving our documentation, and most of the things that I'm showing you as part of MindLamp 2 and the LAMP platform, we'll be making it to the documentation in new and improved ways very, very soon. So any feedback would be fantastic.
Wonderful. Are there any further questions about anything we've covered today? Great. Well, on that note, that concludes our webinar for October 1st. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a fairly short webinar, but it's been great to have everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. Exciting as always.
Great. Thank you so much again, and we'll end it here.